The goal of this guide is to get you from 1KC to 1088 while avoiding as many of my mistakes as possible.
Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday.
What was that? After over 100 hours fighting Vardorvis, I can say that this boss is my all-time favorite content in RuneScape. But I remember how intimidated I was to learn in the beginning. I want to help you get over any early boss fears you have so you can get straight to enjoying this incredible fight. For starters, it took me over 1000 KC to realize you could purchase more Rings of Shadow for teleporting back to collect your many gravestones. I still used the fairy ring for the first 30 hours or so, so there's one mistake you can avoid already as soon as you get the strangled tablet from Vardorvis. Because you will die here. I still die here. We're all dying here. If you already have experience with Vardorvis, feel free to skip ahead to further KC. We're covering about 3000 KC, but focusing particularly on the first 1000 KC. Easy. Damn. That's it. So my first real fight against the post-quest variant of Vardorvis, I was feeling overly confident. This isn't that footage. I died. So I decided to fight Duke Succulus for 50 hours, which was pretty difficult to learn at first, but nowhere near as difficult as Vardorvis. I do recommend learning the Duke if you're having trouble at Vardorvis, but the money is so much better at Vardorvis, and the fight time is so much faster and more fun, so why not just skip the Duke and learn from my mistakes.
I'm gonna see them get about 60 grubs yet.
While I was watching, Bodhi and one other player got new world records, and the second player to get the new world record kicked the alligator to kill it. So this footage is my first real KC, and it was a total mess. I didn't use the spike safe spot. In fact, I won't be using the spike safe spot for some time in these recordings, so that's another mistake. You want to mark these tiles on your map, or at least be aware of the location, and spend the majority of the fight sitting on these tiles, or one of these tiles. You can choose one and get used to fighting from there, because the spikes won't hit you from there. Okay, so I just failed that ranged prayer. That's actually going to be the source of the most damage you'll take in this fight, because the axes and then Vardorvis's melee will do far more damage if your melee prayer isn't on. And if you get hit by the ranged shot, it prevents you from turning on your prayer for several seconds. I was convinced I didn't need to mark the axes like all the other people fighting Vardorvis, but it makes the fight so much more manageable. You're looking at the range shot and moving it, especially if you're not using the spike save spot. Marking the axes makes the fight much easier. Alright, let's talk briefly about gear and inventory, though it is covered well in other videos. I recommend evolving your inventory as you get better. Start with plenty of Karambwans, and don't bother with Ceradome and Brews yet. The first piece of gear you want to invest in as soon as possible is the Fang. You want to use it on Slash. It's incredible, it's second best in slot. Before Bandos, or Prims, or the Bellator, or even the Blood Fury. Also, you'll notice that I'm wearing the Serpentine helm. It's a cheap alternative to the Feminic face guard. You don't usually lose a max hit, but Vardorvis is immune to venom. Nice. At this point, I've decided I'm going to try to get 2 KC in one trip with these resources. I think I do end up managing it. You can see that I'm starting to bring a Cerberus brew now. This is really helpful for healing up between fights, but I wouldn't bring one until you're planning on getting multiple kills. I want to quickly add that the Bando's God Sword that I'm using here isn't actually useful because Vardorvis already has a mechanic where the lower his health goes, the lower his defense goes. So you actually want the Ancient God Sword or the Cerberus God Sword if you want a spec weapon under 50 mil. Right here you see I switched to ranged in order to block the prayer turn off, but I take an axe without my prayer on. You'll find this happening a lot, especially as you're less experienced. The range shot is the most important to block, but if you can move before you switch your prayer, you'll dodge a lot more axes. I'll be getting into more advanced movement mechanics later on as we get further along in KC. But for now, just try and prioritize moving, then changing your prayer, and then changing your prayer back to melee. Vardorvis drops supplies this time. All the Desert Treasure 2 bosses drop supplies. Vardorvis drops super combat, which makes bringing Cerberus brews especially viable. Alright, you're going to start to see a pattern with my failed KCs involving missing the range shot. That is definitely your highest priority. Keep your teleports in a convenient location, somewhere you know you can click it, and get ready to teleport out because he can kill you so fast. Whoa. Okay, so if you teleport to your house and the bleed damage kills you, it's a free death. That was weird. Okay, so we're jumping forward quite a bit here because it took me a long time to start marking any tiles, but you can see the beginning of a system here. Especially as you're learning, it'll help to get used to where the axes are coming from. The blue are diagonal, the green are straight across. I love toast. Toast is so good. Okay, so I'm finally using the spike save spot, and you'll also notice that I've marked Vardorvis' true tile. There's actually something else I recommend. Oh shoot, you're still alive, bro? Oh, he killed me. Okay, if you don't want that to happen to you, I recommend you tag Vardorvis. And I prefer to use the outline rather than the true tile indicator because it's easier to see where his hitbox is. I'm just going to let this KC run so you can get a little bit of a contrast between KC 500 and KC 2000. Here I'm actually trying to change the color. This particular axe formation is going to be the most difficult for you to deal with as a beginner, because either you have to click as soon as the axes spawn on either the top or the bottom, or you can learn to axe skip. But before I get into how to do that, I want to really iron out how to fight Vardorvis around the safe spot. Alright, so I have to move because of the axe that spawns opposite of me. The square I move to spawns a spike, so I move to the square directly adjacent. This is called spike skipping, I think I've heard it called. then, well, if there's an axe coming diagonally, you have to move to the next safe spot, and you just stay there until another axe spawns on you, and then switch back to your most comfortable safe spot. I get tagged by the axe as I go back to my safe spot. There's a way to time it so you don't get hit by it. So this is my first intentional axe skip. The timing is pretty easy to get. Once you practice it a little bit, just watch. You see it pulled back, and then right as it releases, you click on that diagonal square, and then immediately click back. And if you look really closely, I don't actually click exactly on that blue tile. You can click anywhere in this red square, and as soon as your character reaches that blue marker, you click back to the safe spot. This brings us to our final tip. You can click past your tile markers. This is actually something that you might recognize from the doing Wooks walking at Vorkath with ranged gear. You can see that I'm clicking well past where I actually want to be moving, even outside of the arena. That's because as long as you click another move or you're clicking an attack, your character won't stop moving and take damage. And with Vardorvis, it allows you to be less precise with your clicks and thus a lot faster, so you can combine mouse movements to include prayer switches because he's always hitting you with multiple attacks.